NESN.com presents The Hurry Up.
Welcome into Week 7 of The Hurry Up. I'm your host, Rachel Holt. Following a 5-1 start, the Patriots have the best record in the AFC. The Bengals were just their latest victim in Week 6 in Brady's homecoming to Gillette Stadium. And as we near the halfway point of the season, a number of Pats players are finally finding their groove. First, we have Rob Gronkowski, who had a breakout week in Week 6 with 162 yards and a touchdown, and James White, who found the end zone not once, but twice. However, things get a little tougher for the guys in Week 7 as they go head-to-head with the 4-2 Steelers. So for more on that matchup, we're going to send it out to Foxborough with our very own Michaela Vernava and Doug Kide. Guys.
Doug, here we are at beautiful sunny Gillette Stadium as we head into Week 7. The Patriots getting ready to take on the Steelers. I will say it was great to see Dont'a Hightower looking like his old self in the game Sunday against the Bengals, but his 2 sacks were the only ones the Patriots had on Sunday, and we thought that we'd see more from them. Do you think this pass rush is really ever going to come to life this season?
Well, if they are, it's basically going to be this week because they really are playing an immobile quarterback in Landry Jones. I believe he ran a 5.17 40 coming out of the draft. So he's a guy who there's really no threat that he's going to tuck the ball and run. And I think the Patriots pass rush has been extremely conservative so far this season. They've been playing some mobile quarterbacks like Tyrod Taylor, like Ryan Tannehill, like even Andy Dalton is a threat with his legs. Landry Jones is not. In college, in the pros, he actually has negative career rushing yards. So he is not going to take off of the ball. This is definitely the week for the Patriots to kind of pin their ears back, get after Landry Jones, and with Dont'a Hightower fully healthy now, I think that is a good sign for the Patriots pass rush. The rest of those guys have to step up now, though. Jabal Sheard, Chris Long, Rob Ninkovich, they have to finish, they have to get those sacks, and they really have to present opposing offenses with that threat. Otherwise, other offenses really aren't going to be very scared of this pass rush for the rest of the season.
Well, on the other side of the ball for the Patriots, the running game hasn't really been anything to write home about as of the past few weeks. And the Steelers typically are pretty good at defending against the run, except for Sunday. They really blew it in Miami, giving up over 200 yards to Jay Ajayi. So could this be the week the Patriots rebound in the run game?
I think it certainly could be. I think that there's a little bit of a blueprint there now, seeing how the Dolphins did it, how Jay Ajayi was able to get over 200 yards. But with Tom Brady in the offense, it's not really a requirement to have that top-tier running attack, especially with the way that Brady's been playing lately.
Well, this game should still be a good one, even without Ben Roethlisberger. It'll be interesting to see what each team pulls out of their hats on Sunday.
It's not only Week 7 of the NFL season, it's Week 7 of the fantasy football season, more importantly. So now we're joined by Darren Hartwell with a look at some guys you can pick up this week. First, 2 teams are on byes, the Dallas Cowboys and the Carolina Panthers, which means you don't have Dak Prescott, you don't have Cam Newton, and you don't have Big Ben as far as quarterbacks go because he's injured. So who are you looking at in that position to pick off the waiver wires?
Well, he's not the most popular quarterback in the NFL, but I'm actually looking at Colin Kaepernick, especially in more deeper leagues. He got the starting job last week, and he put up 17 points in standard leagues. He has a little bit more value just because he can run the football. He had 66 rushing yards in that game against the Bills. He has a pretty good matchup against the Buccaneers. So, and if they're down, he might be throwing the ball a lot. So I would roll the dice on Kaepernick.
There's slim pickings in the running back position now on the waiver wire at this point in the season, but is there any guy you see on there that might be able to produce in Week 7?
I think the big name this week is Jay Ajayi in the Miami Dolphins. He kind of broke out for 200 plus rushing yards against the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. You know, obviously I don't think you can expect that again, but you know, those numbers, especially with Arian Foster back in the lineup, show that the Dolphins are kind of committed to using him over Foster. So I think you can expect more of that going forward.
What about wide receivers? Any guys you're looking at?
Yeah, I'm looking at Kenny Britt on the Rams. You know, this is the 3rd straight game he's at least 75 receiving yards. He added a couple touchdowns this time. He's kind of emerged as the number 1 receiver in the Rams offense. Obviously, that Rams passing attack isn't that great, but when you have the number 1 receiver, he's worth an add in fantasy. They have a pretty good matchup against the Giants this week, who don't have a great secondary, so I'd give him a look.
3 big names to look at. Thank you, Darren, and good luck in your fantasy football leagues.
Zach, Patriots going up against another top receiver this week in Antonio Brown as they travel to Pittsburgh. Question on a lot of people's minds is really, how do the Patriots handle Brown? They'll probably have to double cover him. It seems like usually when the Patriots take on those smaller receivers, it is Malcolm Butler who draws that coverage. Butler's been extremely good this season. How do you kind of see that shaking out? How do you see Butler's doing against Brown?
I mean, I think Butler's been very underrated this season.
Yeah.
I feel like he's kind of catching some flack from some people just I think the whole Pro Bowl thing last year kind of elevated his status a little bit too much. People expect him to be something he's really not, but he's been great. And I do think, like you said, I do think we'll see him on Antonio Brown this Sunday. And again, like you said, it's the latest in a line of, it seems like it's every week they face DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Brown, Jarvis Landry, AJ Green last week. And so far, none of those guys have really been able to go off and kill them.
Yeah, Patriots defense, the goal usually is to stop the opposing team's best weapon. That's a tough choice this week because they've got Antonio Brown and they've got Le'Veon Bell. So I guess how do they handle Bell? And if you were the Patriots, which one would you take the most seriously?
Well, I think at least this weekend they have to take Bell the most seriously because the Steelers aren't going to have their starting quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger is out for this game, underwent surgery on his torn meniscus this week. They get Landry Jones, who's okay, but he's really not a guy that you have. Yeah, he's really not a guy you have to look at and say we need to prepare for Landry Jones in this game.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that really will mean stacking the line for the Patriots. One of the keys really is stopping Bell in the passing game, and Dante Hightower is one of the best linebackers in the NFL at keeping running backs from having those big plays. He stops guys for 3-4 yard catches. Rarely do guys go off against Hightower, so. He certainly will be key for a second week in a row. AFC Defensive Player of the Week last week, and he'll probably have to put up a similar performance this week.
You're going to want to listen up. We're talking locks and upsets, and we're joined now by Mike Cole, who has all the answers for us. First, Mike, what is the lock this week?
The lock of the week is, this one's going to be pretty popular, I think, among most people, but the Minnesota Vikings, they're only 2.5-point favorites as it stands right now against the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles, hot start to the season. Carson Wentz, the biggest deal in football, kind of come back to earth a little bit. Last week, he completed just 11 of 22 passes. Pro Football Focus had him as the least accurate passer in the entire NFL last week. That's a tough matchup going up against that Vikings defense, which has been relentless against the run and the pass. The Eagles' offensive line, a little shorthanded. Lane Johnson, 10-game suspension upheld. And we saw in the first week of that suspension last week, they gave up 5 sacks. That's a really terrible matchup going against the Vikings that are one of the best pass rushers in the league. So I think even on the road, the Vikings are able to cover that 2.5 points.
Mike, the Vikings are one of 2 teams that don't have any interceptions this season so far. I like that pick. What about upsets?
Upsets. I'm going to take this one's a little bit. I'm going to say it's cheating a little bit, but the Raiders are 1-point favorite or 1-point underdogs. So technically, they're an upset pick. I think they go into Jacksonville, beat the Jaguars, even though it's a 1:00 game, a West Coast team traveling east. But I like this matchup for the Raiders. They've been playing, well for the most part this season. A little bit of a stumble last week against Kansas City, but that Kansas City team doesn't turn over the ball very often. What the Raiders are so good at doing this season, at least, is they turn turnovers into points, and I think they're going to get a few more turnovers from the Jaguars this week. And also, I like the fact that the Raiders are 3-0 against the spread on the road this year. So I take the Raiders to pull off a stunning upset of 1 point.
Okay, we'll allow that. And speaking of turnovers, Derek Carr only has 1 interception on the road, so that works in their favor.
With that too, yeah.
For more on Mike's hot takes and for picks this week, check out his podcast, The Spread. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
I'm Zach Cox, and here are my NFL Power Rankings for Week 7. First, I'd like to recognize Dak Prescott's Dallas Cowboys, who move into the top 5 for the first time all season after reeling off their 5th consecutive win Sunday. The Cowboys now sit at 5-1 with their lone defeat coming by a single point to the New York Giants way back in their season opener. Prescott has proven he can hack it as an NFL quarterback, but is he the right man to lead the Cowboys for the rest of the season? That's a question they'll have to answer soon, as Tony Romo's return is rapidly approaching. We have to go much further down the list to locate the Carolina Panthers, who at number 22 are clearly the NFL's biggest disappointment this season. Cam Newton's return didn't help the Panthers Sunday in a 41-38 loss to the New Orleans Saints, and the reigning NFC champs now sit at a miserable 1-5, including 0-3 against NFC South opponents. We finish off by checking in on the New England Patriots, who remain atop our list after doubling up the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday. The Patriots also catch a break this weekend as they'll face a Pittsburgh Steelers team that will be without injured starting quarterback Ben Roethlisberger.
I'm joined now by Khatchaturian for a little game of fact or fiction, and let's start off with the Pittsburgh Steelers. In a major blow for the team, Ben Roethlisberger had surgery Monday to report a torn meniscus in his knee, so he'll be out for an indefinite period of time. Fact or fiction, Andre, this is a major blow for the Steelers.
Fiction. Let me tell you why. The Steelers, part of being the Steelers is you have to be prepared for Ben Roethlisberger injuries. He gets hurt every year. He hasn't played a 16-game season in a long time. So you know this is going to happen. Last year they lost him for 5 games. They went 3-2, and I think they'll be able to float around at 500 until he gets back.
Okay, let's ask you another one. Dak Prescott had another great week for the Cowboys. He threw for 3 touchdowns. The team is now 5-1. Fact or fiction, Tony Romo should be the starter when he's healthy, despite Dak Prescott getting off to such a strong start.
Fact, and I know this is an unpopular opinion. I know I'm in the minority on this one, but Tony Romo will still be able to succeed in that Dallas Cowboys offense. Their offensive line is too good. Their rushing attack is great. Dak Prescott's been fantastic. I like him, but I think it's more important for Tony Romo to come back and prove to the rest of the league that he's healthy and play well, so his trade value goes up, so Dallas can trade him in the offseason, get some draft picks. If Sam Bradford was able to bring in a first-round draft pick, Romo can maybe bring in 2. Who knows?
Well, if you can't tell, the Cowboys really get this guy riled up. Next question for you, Andre, and the last question is the Buffalo Bills destroyed the 49ers. They now have 4 straight wins in a row. Fact or fiction? This is the year the Buffalo Bills break their playoff drought for the first time since 1999.
Fact. And I just got onto the Bills bandwagon. Let me tell you something about the Bills. 2nd in sacks, 2nd in turnover differential, 1st in rushing yards per attempt. They are for real on both sides of the ball. Rex Ryan's defense is doing well. Ever since they fired their offensive coordinator in the week 2, they've won every game, and they've beat some big opponents. The Patriots and the Cardinals, they're for real, Rachel.
Who needs a cup of coffee when you have Andre to wake you up? Thank you so much. That's Fact or Fiction.
The name of the game is Show and Tell. This is where I bring in objects each week and use them to give you a few developing thoughts I have on the 2016 NFL season. For Week 7, first objects I'm bringing in. A little bit of peanut butter. A little bit of jelly. Peanut butter jelly time. Didn't have lamb and tuna fish, but we'll go with this. Pretty good combination. You know what else is a pretty good combination? Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski have not skipped a beat since they've been back together after Brady returned in Week 5. Listen, you can give me any duo you want. You can give me your Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. You can give me a Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown. You can give me your Andrew Luck, T.Y. Hilton. I'm taking Brady and Gronk. I also think Brady's going to be the MVP before the season is all said and done. Hell of a combo, just like this peanut butter and jelly. Second object we're bringing in, some lifesavers, and that's because the Chargers' Week 6 win over the Denver Broncos just saved Mike McCoy's job. And why? It's because Phillip Rivers is playing at an elite level right now. No Keenan Allen, no Danny Woodhead. Melvin Gordon keeps putting the bacon on the floor. Antonio Gates is about 150 years old. But Phillip Rivers is playing like an elite quarterback. And guess what? I wouldn't be shocked if the Chargers make some noise and actually sneak into a wild card spot. This team's pretty good. As long as they play bend, don't break defense like they did against the Broncos in Week 6, this team can make a little bit of noise. And finally, I'm doing it. I'm jumping on the Dallas Cowboys bandwagon, and mostly it's because of their offensive line. Sure, you can talk about Dak Prescott versus Tony Romo. It's a nice little debate. I'm a Prescott guy. And you can talk about how good rookie running back Ezekiel Elliott has been. But without that offensive line, none of this is possible. So I think they might be one of the single biggest weapons in the NFL right now. I'm jumping on the Cowboys bandwagon. There's plenty of room. Come join me.
That does it for this week of The Hurry Up. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, for more football news, for more Patriots news, keep it locked on NESN.com or listen to one of our podcasts.